Okay, so if you do podcasting or voiceover, I'm going to save you literally hundreds or maybe thousands of hours with this little dog clicker thing. And I can't stress enough that once I learned this trick, I mourned and wept for all of my wasted time. And I just want to pass this information on to anybody who might not know. So basically what this trick allows you to do is edit long scripted pieces of voiceover without listening to it. You can just visually edit it and it'll be perfect. So to illustrate my point, I'm going to record this little script that I wrote. And essentially what you do is every time you mess up a line, you click this thing once into the microphone. And if you mess up the line again, you click it twice. And you keep raising the number of clicks you do every time you mess up that line. So sometimes you can keep really messing up a line and you click it 5-6 times. And then once you finally get the line, you move on. And when you mess up again, you start over with one click. This is a test script for a podcast or voiceover. I'm reading it to show how to visually edit using this dog clicker thing. It seriously makes editing VO or podcast a million times easier. I have a deep dive explainer podcast called Deep Cuts where we put out 2 to 4 hour extensively researched and scripted episodes that involve several hours of VO recording. They're essentially audio documentaries about interesting stories you've probably never heard. So here's the recording, and essentially what happens is every time I click the dog clicker thing, it creates this very high spike that's very easy to see because it's really thin and it goes higher than any human voice. So I can see anywhere where I've made a mistake, and I can also see how many mistakes I've made because you can clearly see that this is 1 click and this is 2 clicks. And so what you do is you go in here and you find any mistake that you've made and you look at this waveform and you can say, okay, so this waveform here looks the same as the beginning of this waveform. So clearly I made the mistake here and then did it again and got it right. So what you do is you take the razor tool and you go in here and you cut right before the mistake and then right after the click. And then you shift delete that to get rid of it. Do that for all the mistakes. Here's where I messed up twice. So as you can see, there's 3 waveforms. The beginning of this one looks the same as these two. So I'm just going to click before the first mistake and then after the second click. And then I'm going to shift delete. And without even listening to it, I've put together a finished VO that I could just publish directly to a podcast or whatever. This is a test script for a podcast or voiceover. I'm reading it to show how to visually edit using this dog clicker thing. It seriously makes editing VO or podcast a million times easier. I have a deep dive explainer podcast called Deep Cuts where we put out 2 to 4 hour extensively researched and scripted episodes that involve several hours of VO recording. They're essentially audio documentaries about interesting stories you've probably never heard.